Hey everybody, welcome to road.cc. It's science day today, kind of. We've got a bottle of Absolute Black's new Graphenlube, and we're going to do some testing, see if we can discern any real life gains from applying it, using equipment you'd normally find at home, like a turbo trainer and a power meter. We wouldn't normally bother, but this is the most expensive bike lube we've ever seen, so we thought we'd up our game just a little bit. Now, it's expensive because it's got graphene in it. Now, you might have seen graphene popping up in various guises in cycling already. Now, if you don't know what it is, then basically it's an allotrope of carbon that consists of a single layer of atoms arranged in a hexagonal lattice. Now, graphene is already used in cycling. It's in many Vittoria tyres where it's said to increase grip and also durability. Dassi has used it in some bike frames as well. And given that the raw material is about 100 times stronger than steel, it's been suggested that you can make a full bike frame that complies with all the regulations and it only weighs about 350 grams, which is nuts. It is transparent, it's flexible, it conducts electricity really well. Basically, it can do anything. And now it's in this bike lube. Graphene is also very expensive to produce, and that goes some way to explaining the astronomical price of this lube. This little bottle here, 140 ml. Costs £114.99, that's 82 pence a milliliter. So to put that into perspective, that's about the same as this 600 quid bottle of 30-year-old Glenmorangie. It is an expensive liquid, but the claims are bold. It will reduce drivetrain friction and it will last for basically ever, at least in non-dusty and dry conditions, so not the UK. But in the lab, it kept on being really good for over 3,000 kilometers apparently, which is a bold claim. So we thought we'd do some testing. Now, what I'm not going to do is ride 3,000 kilometers in lab conditions because that would be mental. But if we look at Absolute Black's graph, we can see that the advantage of the lube is immediate, especially over a traditional wet lube. Morgan Blue's right up here. Muck-Off Nano is even higher. Now, the reason for this is that a wet lube is sticky, and that stickiness between surfaces increases friction a little bit. Dry lubes and wax lubes work better from the off. So, here's what I'm going to do. I have a brand new chain. First, I'm going to do a baseline test with the fresh chain straight out of the box. Then I'm going to strip it down, apply a wet lube. After that, I'll strip it down and apply a wax lube. Then we'll strip it down another time. We'll go for the Graphenlube. We'll get some numbers for that. And after that, I'm going to try a wild card, which is another carbon-based lube. It's graphite powder that you normally use on locks. I got it about 7 quid off of Amazon. Testing protocol is very simple. I've got Tac's Neo 2 trainer, my road bike with Garmin Vector pedals. I'm going to run a standard 15-minute structured test on each lube. I'll do it 3 times. I'll take the average numbers from the trainer and from the pedals for each one. Now, if a lube is more effective at moving power through the transmission without friction losses, then you would expect to see that the reported power at the pedals is lower compared to the less effective lube. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. Maybe the whole thing will be a mess and we won't learn anything, who knows. But I've got my lube and I bought my new chain and I'm kind of committed now, so let's crack on. Okay, so I've been out in the shed, I've got my chain. This is new SRAM Red 22 chain there. That's going to go on this bike, my Merida. I've got some power pedals, these are Vector 2s, I haven't put the pods on yet. I've also got a power crankset as well, so I can take readings off that, so that's good. Found 2 lubes in the shed. I've got this one, which is Smooth Lube, which is more of a wax-based lube, so you let it dry on the chain. This Muck-Off C3 ceramic lube. The ultimate wet chain lubricant, it says here, so we'll see about that, see how these go. So next thing to do is put the brand new chain on this bike and then we'll do kind of a benchmark test with that. For testing here, it was important that everything was properly clean to begin with, so my turbo cassette got a full deep clean, and I also fitted a new chain ring set and took apart my rear mech to get any gunk out of the jockey wheels. The first test was with the chain straight out of the box, and after that it was time to strip off the wax it was shipped with using white spirit and apply our wet lube to the chain. Back on the turbo for some more testing, Each time doing the same 15-minute workout that covers a full range of efforts from easy spinning all the way up to sprints. Next up was the smooth lube, and by this point I'd worked out that an old apple juice bottle was a much more efficient way of getting the chain clean. I gave the chain a proper dunking in the wax lube and then left it to dry before refitting it to the bike and getting some more numbers using the Tacx Neo 2 trainer and my rotor cranks to get data from before and after the transmission losses. The graphite powder was a bit more of an experiment. It's not really meant for lubing a chain, and in the end I mixed it with white spirit and gave it a shake in the apple juice bottle with the chain to get it into all the nooks and crannies. Once it was dry, the chain went back on the Merida and I ran through the same series of tests again. Last up was Graphenlube. The chain still looked good as new and sparkling clean, and the method of getting the lube on was the same as the wax lube. Stick some in a bag, get the chain fully coated before letting it dry and refitting it to the bike. I just knocked it over and spilled about 30 quid's worth. Don't do that. A last set of sessions to get some final numbers, and then we're ready to look at the data. So after a lot of faffing about with chains and white spirit, we're back on the sofa with a presentation that I've titled Things We Learned from Trying Out a Bunch of Lubes. So let's go quickly through the testing process. So we've got a load of graphs like this. We're doing the same 15-minute workout over and over again, with power going from 160 up to 800 watts, and the average power being 250 for the session. That's with the chain in a single gear, so the turbo and erg mode doing the resistance changes, and the results are on average of the different results that we got for each lube. There wasn't actually that much variance in them, to be honest, and they performed as we expected pretty much. So a brand new chain was worst, and then our wildcard graphite powder lube wasn't that great either, and then the muck off ceramic wet lube was after that, and then the smooth wax lube was after that, and top of the pile was the Graphenlube. So let's have a look at the numbers that we measured. Okay, this is based on a 250 watt rider input, so adjusted for that. A new chain straight out of the box, 6.9 watts of loss. Graphite powder, 5.8 watts. The wet lube comes in at 5.4, the wax lube at 4.8, and then the Graphenlube at 2.6. So, you know, up at the top of the bunch. Quick word about all those numbers. So we were testing with 2 power meters. I had a Tacx Neo turbo trainer and a Rotor twin power crankset. I didn't use the Garmin pedals in the end because I'd run out of cleats. So there we go. Both of those things claim an accuracy of plus or minus 2%. But there's no guarantee here that the baseline for both of them is the same. So we don't know that the exact numbers are correct. What we do know is that we measured a maximum efficiency for the chain of 99%, and that is very unlikely. So that means that either the cranks were reading the power slightly low, or the Tacx Neo was reading it slightly high, and actually in reality the gap between the 2 power readings would have been a bit bigger. That means the watts lost from that last slide probably on the low side. So what I've done is I've come up with some more likely numbers, and these are assuming that the chain was running at a maximum efficiency of 98%. So brand new clean chain with the most expensive lube you can buy, 98%. That's within the realms of possibility. So using that benchmark, we find that the new chain straight out of the box, you're getting a 9.3 watt loss. So it's running just over 96% efficiency. Graphite powder 8.3, wet lube 7.8 watts, wax lube 7.3 watts, and then the Graphenlube 4.5 watts, which is pretty close to what they're claiming from their own testing. So that seems about right to us. The real life saving for that, so we use bikecalculator.com, we put a bunch of numbers into there based on these findings. So we're looking at a rider who's riding 25 kilometers at 250 watts of input. And what you find is that if you use the Graphenlube, clean chain, put the Graphenlube on over a brand new chain, you're going to save yourself over 20 seconds on that course. This is a flat course. Over a wet lube, you're saving yourself about 14.5 seconds. Over a wax lube, you're saving yourself about 11.5 seconds. So let's quickly sum up. The savings are real. I mean, we've done a bunch of testing. It seems to be that the Graphenlube is the best lube that we tested. So, you know, whether those savings are meaningful to you will probably depend on what kind of riding you do. If you're in a time trial and you're thinking you might save yourself half a minute on an hour's time trial, then that's a meaningful saving. If you're just pootling around to the shops, probably not so much, but there we go. Another thing we learned is it's a good idea to strip and lube a new chain. So if you've got a chain straight out of the box, the wax that's on it is really there to protect the chain rather than to do any, you know, particular lubricating job. Best to get rid of that with some white spirit or some other industrial solvent. Put a proper lube on there straight away, and that will save you watts. The other thing we've learned is really it's not that hard taking a chain on and off, keeping it clean. If you've got a quick link that you can use more than once, and a lot of them say you can't, but most of them you actually can, that means you can take it on and off, stick it in a bottle, shake it up with some white spirit, strip it down, put it back on again. You know, I've done that multiple times through the course of this testing, and you know, it's 20 minutes of work, and what you get is a nice clean chain that's not as difficult to handle. You don't get as much gunk on your clothes, you don't transfer as much gunk to your chain rings and your derailleur, and everything runs nicely and smoothly. So, you know, that's worth doing. Another thing is, this isn't over. One of the things that Absolute Black claims for the Graphenlube is that it lasts for ages. I've still got it on the chain on my bike. It was the last one that we tested, so I'm going to keep it on there, and I'm going to keep testing the rotor power versus the neo power to see what changes over time, and I'll bring you those results when I've got them. And the other thing we've learned is, isn't technology brilliant? We've got things that you can buy in a shop that you might even have already on your house, where you can measure meaningful differences between chain lubes, and we've got some what appear to be similar results to Absolute Black, although we can't be quite as empirical about them. It's not quite as scientific, but it's been good fun. If you've got any comments or questions about what we've done here, get them down in the comments below. We'll answer them for you. And, you know, don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this on road.cc, and check back for our long-term test of the lube too. Thanks for watching.